this video, we'll look at some examples of the different kinds of drag and drop questions you can create. If you haven't already, you should look at the Creating a Basic Drag and Drop Question video so that you understand the steps for creating a drag and drop question. The simple drag and drop question that we'll look at first is the one that's created in that video. In this question, students must match the national capital with the corresponding country. The question is made up of 3 draggable text items. There are 3 drop targets with text labels that indicate the countries. Each city matches one country. This question is still a very basic question. Down the left side is a sentence. For each word in the sentence, students drag the correct part of speech from the right. Notice that the parts of speech can be used multiple times. The parts of speech are in alphabetical order. By default, draggable items are scrambled automatically. Since I want the parts of speech to stay in alphabetical order, I've deselected Scramble Draggables automatically. In the sentence, the same part of speech occurs multiple times. For example, there are 2 articles in the sentence. To allow the draggable to match multiple targets, I've selected the Reusable option. You can set each item to be reusable or not. I set all of the items to be reusable so students wouldn't be able to tell which parts of speech might have multiple matches. Finally, notice that unlike the first example, not all draggables have a match. There are no adjectives in this sentence, for example. Now let's look at some drag and drop questions that use backgrounds. Backgrounds are great for labeling activities. In this first example, students have to put the elements in the first column of the periodic table in the correct order. Here is the background used in the question. It's the left half of the periodic table with empty boxes where the drop targets will go. I created it as a spreadsheet and then took a screenshot of it, but I could have also done it in a simple paint program or used some free clip art. To upload a background, click Add Background Image and select the image. For this question, I positioned the image by hand rather than using any of the alignment buttons. I've laid the drop targets over the blank squares in the background image. For this question, students must place the solutions on the right where they belong along the pH scale. The background image for this question is just the pH scale on the left. I've aligned it to the top and the left. Because of the height of the different colored blocks, I couldn't use any of the preset box sizes. So I created custom-sized boxes to match the height of those colored blocks. In this example, students need to label the indicated bones. Here's the background image for the question. You can see that the lines pointing to the different bones are part of the image. I've placed the image by hand rather than using the alignment buttons so that I can accommodate the drop targets and the starting locations of the draggable items. The drop targets are opaque and appear to be part of the background. In this question, students need to label the state capitals. Students need to be able to see the state borders to be able to identify the state properly. So the drop targets are transparent. Here is the background image. It's a map with the locations of the state capitals identified with stars. The background is aligned to the right and the top. The drop targets are set to be transparent so that the map and state borders show through. So far, we've looked at questions with a background image and draggable text. The final examples we'll look at use draggable images. Let's start with an example where students must drag the flags to the corresponding Nordic countries. The background image is aligned to the top and left margin. There are text labels with the country names underneath the drop targets. To create draggable images, instead of entering text, click Upload Image and select the image. You can also combine text and images in your draggable items. Here is the flag matching question again, but this time, instead of country names being on the map, they're included with the flags. So students must recognize the countries rather than just the flags. I imported the same flag images, but I've also entered the country names in the text field. The text is aligned along the bottom and centered. In this final example, students must place the planets in the correct order from the sun. It uses a background and draggable images with text. The background for this question is just a black rectangle with a sliver of an orange circle to represent the sun. The background is a little bigger than the canvas, so I've positioned it a bit off the canvas to get enough room for the planets. The drop targets are opaque, so they show as white squares on the black background. The drop targets are aligned along their top edges, and then they're distributed horizontally so that they're evenly spaced. The draggable planets are aligned the same way as the drop targets. Because Scramble Draggables automatically is selected by default, I was able to arrange the planets in the correct order and put them below their drop targets. When the student sees the question, the planets will be in a random order. Depending on the planet, the text is a different color and in a different location. For example, Neptune is purple, so the font is white and centered both horizontally and vertically to make it easier to read. The text for Jupiter is aligned in the same way, but the text is black because the planet is paler. The image for Saturn, on the other hand, is smaller than the other planets to account for its rings. It has more black around it, so the text is white and aligned along the bottom. And those are just some examples of drag and drop questions. With all the different options, there is an unlimited number of questions that you can create.